you are listening to the What Idjit's Thoughts On podcast. I am your host, Paul Mackey, recording for the 21st day of the Dog Days Podcasting Challenge. Today I've got your answers regarding beer and a guy improbably named Wizzleteats. But then I have a little of the regular content I do on this show, watching and commenting on a slightly less well-known television program. This time it's Seeing Things, a mystery comedy show produced by the Canadian Broadcasting Company back in the 1980s, and today's episode is the Season 2 premiere. So let's get you to some answers. Alright, first that beer brand that got its start in 1990 with a brew pub in Aspen, and having several locations at a production brewery in Denver before all moving to Maryland. That brand is Flying Dog. The brand and most of its production was moved to New York afterwards by new owner FX Matt Brewing. And if your old pal Stinky Wizzleteats is about to sing you a song that's not about a whale, the 1991 Nickelodeon series you are watching is The Ren and Stimpy Show. Stinky Wizzleteats was the performer of the song Happy Happy Joy Joy in Season 1, Episode 14, Stimpy's Invention. After those answers, I believe the total possible points is 41, but these points really don't matter much. Now we're going to switch gears and look at Seeing Things Season 2, Episode 1, An Eye for an Eye, originally aired Wednesday, October 20th, 1982. That day of note, Billy Martin, it may surprise you to hear, was fired as a manager of the Oakland A's. Just because it amuses me, this was in the middle of his managerial career that went Twins, Tigers, Rangers, Yankees, Yankees a second time, A's, Yankees, Yankees, and Yankees. Meanwhile, also on this day, the St. Louis Cardinals won the World Series 4-3 over the Milwaukee Brewers. At the North American domestic box office for the week ending October 16th, 1982, the top 5 films were number 5, My Favorite Year, number 4, An Officer and a Gentleman, number 3, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, this was E.T.'s 19th week of release, number 2 was Six Pack, and the number 1 movie was On Golden Pond in its 46th week of release. In Canada, the top 5 songs of the week ending October 16th were number 5, Athena by The Who, number 4, Hold On by Santana, number 3, Eye in the Sky by the Alan Parsons Project, number 2, Down Under by Men at Work, and Canada's number 1 single for that week was New World Man by Rush. No surprise, the highest Maple-certified Canadian band on the chart this week was Rush at number 1. It's been a while since I recorded for Seeing Things, but not nearly as long as the interim between Seasons 1 and 2. This is the Season 2 premiere, airing almost 13 months after the first season finale. Unfortunately, as I pointed out before, there doesn't seem to be a lot of information readily available online about the series, so I can only speculate about the decisions that led to this gap. I'm assuming ratings, funding, and scheduling all probably played a part. The decision was based on only 3 episodes of produced content, after all, so there probably wasn't a rabid fan base right away. So what's the episode about? While watching a news report on the murder of a prominent Jewish spokesperson, Louis first sees the witness is a neo-Nazi, then later sees that a rabbi, also seen in the news report, had some sort of connection to an SS massacre. He doggedly pursues the case using a linguistic expert to identify that both the murder victim and rabbi were from a very specific region of Europe, and it turns out the murdered leader was actually a collaborator who enabled the massacre back during wartime and was posing as a Jewish leader. The rabbi murdered him after realizing he was that same Nazi collaborator who led to the deaths of his entire family. So, what made him see it? This is about why Louis gets his visions. Initially, he saw the busboy on the TV news and had a vision of the busboy in a Nazi uniform, leading him to go to the hotel. Then, happening by the rabbi on tape at the TV station, the vision of the events in the forest 40 years earlier. And lastly, when the rabbi brandishes his cane at Louis asking to be left alone, Louis sees a vision of the actual murder. And my favorite line from the episode...
Marge, I'm a reporter, right? I gotta watch the news on TV, all right?
Well, this is your day off, isn't it?
Listen, today's TV news is tomorrow's newspaper, okay? 5 minutes, just 5 minutes.
Oh, Louis.
Come on.
Who is? Well, after the first season's 3 episodes where I did the principal actors who were in every episode, I figured I'd be working my way down the main cast list and probably hitting Frank Adamson today. However, I was curious about the rabbi, played by Alfie Skop, and the first point of interest is that he was of Belarusian Jewish heritage. The other thing that I discovered is why I'm looking at him today, but we'll get to that in a bit. Alfie was born in London to an English mother and Russian father in 1919, and the family emigrated to Montreal. During World War II, he was in the Royal Canadian Air Force based out of Newfoundland. After the war, he studied at the Lorne Greene Academy of Radio Arts, and among his classmates was fellow Canadian Leslie Nielsen. He worked in film and television, appearing in Fiddler on the Roof in 1971, and back in 1965 he did voice action in the film Willie McBean and His Magic Machine, working with director Arthur Rankin Jr. On TV in the 50s, he played Clarabelle on the Canadian version of Howdy Doody. In the 60s, he was the voice of Socrates the Scarecrow in Tales of the Wizard of Oz for Videocraft International, again working for Arthur Rankin. In 1964, he did voice work playing multiple roles in a picture, including Fireball and Charlie in a Box. Oh wait, that's pronounced Charlie in a Box, in the Rankin-Bass holiday classic Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I suppose that was the other reason that I picked Alfie Skop to profile today. He played various voices in 4 episodes of Spider-Man in 1967-68, played Okie in 4 episodes of The Littlest Hobo, which spanned before and after his appearance in this episode of Seeing Things, and in 1986 he was in an episode of the Canadian series The Edison Twins, and in 1988 an episode of Street Legal. Alfie Skop passed away in Toronto in 2021 at the age of 101. All right, under the category Totally 80s or Aged Poorly, it kind of fits both. There was a series of gay jokes that I assumed were meant to be in good nature. The landlady assuming that Louis and Sergeant Brown were looking to rent a room together, and the Hasidic Jew helping Louis talk with the rabbi, saying that Louis shouldn't get any ideas he was already promised to another. They struck me as a modern viewer in poor taste, but obviously they were part of the culture at the time, and we have since moved on. Artifactoids, this is where I find some small thing in an episode to look at that probably could pass by without even hardly being noticed. I immediately spotted a nice callback to the early days of this podcast. In the Bellboys' den of Nazi paraphernalia, the prop designers put up an infamous poster from the band Killing Joke, who wrote the song that became the theme to that 80s show, which I was covering for this podcast's first Dog Days in 2022. The band was known for mixing in controversial or provocative imagery in their stage shows and promotional materials. The poster in question is infamous. The image is called Malicious Damage. It depicts a religious figure walking among saluting Nazi troops and appearing to return the salute. Originally identified as Pope Pius XI, it's actually a German abbot, Albin Schockleiter. The poster was used to promote the band on tour, and I see some sources claiming it was banned, but no detail about where or when that happened. That same image was used on a later Killing Joke compilation album and new posters to promote that album. While neo-Nazism is known in some branches of punk music, the band was using the imagery solely to provoke. All right, this next category I call Clearly Canadian. It's supposed to be something that is specifically Canadian in nature. And I suppose the Royal York Hotel works both as an artifactoid and as clearly Canadian. The Canadian Pacific Railway Company began building Grand Rail hotels in the Mountain West and expanded east, including the Hotel Frontenac in Quebec City. The Royal York in Toronto was built in 1929. So if there's any Decoder Ring Theatre listeners out there, this would have been right about the start of the Red Panda adventures. That may be only providing me context, but it still amuses me. From 1929 to 1931, the hotel was the tallest building not only in Toronto, not only in Canada, but indeed the tallest building in the British Empire. Its address is 100 Front Street, and it is at the southern end of Toronto's financial district, just adjacent to Toronto Union Station. It's not far from Old City Hall, which I looked at last season, and for modern reference, it is a little over a half a kilometer from the CN Tower. It's a chateau-esque structure with a steel frame encased in Indiana limestone. The hotel had 1,048 rooms when it opened, and it has been expanded several times, currently housing 1,363 rooms and 3 restaurants. There was a modernization remodeling in 1972 and 1973 that brought it to the state that it was in during production of this episode, though I'm not certain if the interiors seen in the episode are in fact the Royal York. A spiral staircase was added in the lobby, the marble pillars were encased in wood paneling, and a 4-faced clock was installed, a gift from the royal family. There was a $100 million restoration between 1988 and 1992. The Canadian Pacific Railway's hotel company first purchased the Fairmont Hotel Company of San Francisco in 1999, then eventually took on the Fairmont name for all their properties, thus the current name, the Fairmont Royal York. The Royal York is the residence for members of the British royal family when they are in Toronto. Queen Elizabeth II would have the entire floor, including the royal suite, for herself and entourage. The floors immediately above and below were vacated a week prior to her visit, and the hotel maintains a stock of royal furnishings and fixtures, which are kept in storage when a royal is not in residence as a guest. Charles and Camilla have stayed at the hotel, but not since his coronation. So what worked in this episode? I thought the episode did a good job of navigating between scenes of Louis and his family and the case at hand. The story of the rabbi narrowly surviving an SS massacre was a riveting tale. I'd love to think the story was based on an actual survivor testimony, but it is likely a fictional account. The message that humanity needs to do better was clear without being over-dramatized. The character depictions of the regular cast, especially Louis, felt more developed than during the first season, and they did a good job of showing how both Louis' personality issues complicate his relationship with Marge, but also sweet family moments as well. What didn't work? Well, the red herring of the bellboy was definitely necessary in offering additional suspects for the mystery story. However, I didn't think the tense moment at the end of the episode paid off when the freed bellboy and confessing rabbi crossed paths at City Hall. I guess we were meant to gather the neo-Nazi bellboy back down from the confrontation when he awkwardly ducked his head, but the meaning was unclear to me. So next time we look at Seeing Things, it will be Season 2, Episode 2, Looking Back. I have been producing Seeing Things episodes in tandem with episodes of a British teen show called Press Gang, as both series produced 43 episodes over the years. Lately, I've been doing both shows paired in a single episode. To keep on track, I'll need to do another single of Press Gang, and I'm hoping to have that done sometime in the next 10 days and feature it in another Dog Days episode. If this episode intrigued you, I invite you to subscribe to my podcast, where I am regularly, though possibly not as regularly as I'd like, covering Seeing Things, Press Gang, The Rockford Files, and CBS one-season show Whiz Kids. Now that wedding season is winding down, Darcy and I will be getting back into our dual reviewer episodes as well, ideally wrapping up Muppets Mayhem, which has been seriously stalled, and get back into Moonlighting, which we started on the 40th anniversary of the premiere movie. Alright, well, I suppose it's time to get you new trivia questions, I think. Shirts were developed with embedded micropellets containing thermochromic dye in 1991, which allowed them to change color dependent on the temperature of the fabric. What was the trade name for these shirts? Probably everyone who was alive in 1991 remembers Unbelievable by EMF, with its techno-inspired indie dance hooks and Andrew Dice Clay samples. The album which generated the single had some sweet Ave Maria in a way. What is the title of this 1991 EMF album? And those are the questions of the day. This is the Dog Days of Trivia on the One Idjit's Thoughts On podcast, and I wish you happy hunting.